Hey, what's up? This is Logical once again. So I'm making a follow-up video to my previous video about Drake and the debate whether or not he's FBA, Foundational Black American. So shout out to Tariq Nasheed, who coined the term Foundational Black American. He says Drake is not FBA because he's Canadian, and that's pretty much, I think, the basis for it. And then he talks about other things, but you can go watch his video on Vlad TV. That's the original, or my other video where I talk about it more. Anyway, I'm just making a follow-up. People are focused on his lack of American, U.S. citizenship, but they're not understanding this is about a lineage, a bloodline, an ethnicity. And I keep bringing up these examples. There are many groups who have diasporas: Chinese, Jamaican, Indian. There are many others, who have their home country, and then they have these diasporic groups, in other countries, So say Jamaica. Jamaicans are very similar to blacks because they were created in the West Indies. Jamaicans were not created in Africa. Neither were FBA, right? So this is our home. The United States is our home. We can't go back to Africa. That ain't our home. The United States is our home. But anyway, so you have your Jamaicans, who are in the yard, which is, a slang for Jamaica. And then you have people, New York City, London, Toronto, huge Jamaican West Indian communities. Those people, they identify as Jamaican, even if they weren't born there or have never even been there. And some don't even speak like the patois or anything, but they still identify as Jamaican because that is their lineage. So the same with FBA, So most FBA are still here in the United States, but some have moved elsewhere. There's actually a whole bunch of them up in Nova Scotia and Ontario. These are ones who left, like during the Underground Railroad and things of that nature, to get away from slavery, because, you had your runaway slaves, and at first, slaves could just escape to the free states, and then they were good. But then they passed the Fugitive Slave Act. I don't remember the year. But then, so slavers could go into these free states and capture these former slaves and bring them back. So then slaves started going to Canada. So that's when there was an influx of Black American slaves in Canada. So they're also FBA. That's their lineage. So if there were ever a thing for reparations, they would have claims, as far as I'm concerned, because their ancestors were slaves. So look at Drake. Drake's father's FBA, as far as we all know. Memphis. That makes Drake FBA. That's his lineage. Half of his ancestors were on the plantation, or during slavery times, half of his ancestors would be on the plantation. So, and Drake himself, if they brought slavery back today, he would be on a plantation. So, but I just think the biggest thing is that it's not about nationality or citizenship. These are governmental designations. It's about your heritage and your bloodline. So, yeah, and who's deciding what FBA is? Tariq Nasheed coined the term, but he doesn't define a lineage. No one can take that away from you. It's you can't help it. Even people who don't identify as FBA are still FBA. So that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Once again, this is Logical Black Man. If you like the video, please like the video and think about subscribing. All right, I'm out.